Hey folks, it's time for another marvelous video, and we're back with more Arcane and Runeterra content for all of you. With only a few more days remaining before the third act ends, now is one of the best times for anybody looking to catch up on the show. Rumors currently state that there will be no third season for this hit TV series, and this final act might be the last we see of Arcane, at least for the foreseeable future. The show has set a new standard for the entire industry, with its carefully crafted, unique, beautiful backgrounds and animations, and a compelling adult-themed plotline. Arcane really introduced the world of Runeterra to an entire group of people who would have otherwise never known that such a deep, lore-rich world ever existed. While the show is set in the cities of Piltover and Zaun, it should not come as a surprise that the world that Arcane is set in is much larger than you might have thought it was if you're not familiar with the existing lore. There's no cause to worry though, as we at Marvelous Videos are your one-stop shop for everything related to this wonderful franchise. Being fans ourselves, we absolutely love nerding out about this stuff, and we can't wait for more of you to discover Runeterra and the various stories and the characters that inhabit this world. As we just mentioned, Runeterra, the world where the majority of the events in this franchise take place, has a plethora of species that call it their home. It is therefore only natural that these people are divided into a number of factions that serve their interests. Some of them are of a geopolitical nature, while others are based on theology, scientific beliefs, or even some form of subpolitical nature. These factions control the fate of Runeterra and the people who call it home, and are reflective of the diverse cultures and customs that are present in it. In today's video, we'll be talking about the top 14 major geopolitical factions that shape the day-to-day fate of millions of inhabitants of Runeterra. These are no clandestine organizations or fanatic cults, but the largest and the most powerful factions that are bound to a certain location. We could do a full-length video for each of these factions that we're going to mention today, but we'll try to be as concise as possible while delivering to you all of the necessary information. If you want a deep dive video on any single faction, let us know in the comments below, as they have a lot of interesting lore attached to them. So without wasting any more of your time, be sure to fasten your seatbelts and join us as we take you on a one-of-a-kind guided tour through the diverse and wonderful world of Runeterra. Before we go into our explanation, we have a very small request. If you like our content, please support us by subscribing to our channel. This is a small click for you, but for us it means a lot. Thank you. Let's begin. Empire of Nexus. Once upon a time, a powerful warlord would be resurrected by a coven of power-hungry sorcerers after being tempted by his promises of power in order to use him as their weapon. Unfortunately for these mages, the resurrected being proved to be too powerful, and after tricking them into fusing his soul into a set of mythical armor, he would lay waste to them, transforming their souls into his weapon. This being would rise up as the Iron Revenant Mordekaiser. He would build the Immortal Bastion, a citadel where he delved into dark magics to learn more about the secrets of death. He would also use it as a base of operations for his fresh campaigns of conquest. He would form an inner circle of mages to aid him in his necromantic research, and only then would they be privy to the deepest and darkest secrets of the Immortal Bastion. However, just like all tyrants, Mordekaiser's reign would also finally come to an end, after he was betrayed by the leader of his cabal, LeBlanc. The sorcerer would ally herself with the neighboring Noxi tribes, and their god Vladimir, and lead an uprising against her master. Together, they would manage to sever Mordekaiser's connection to the material plane, and banish him back to the spirit world. They would then maintain an eternal vigil to prevent the Iron Revenant from returning, and create an empire called Nexus. To the victims of their brutal expansionist ways, and even to the onlookers, Nexus appears as a tyrannical and ruthless and violent empire. There's no doubt that the empire has produced its fair share of unsavory characters, and the talks about their brutality are not mere rumors, but in fact, cold hard facts. However, if one were to peek more closely into this powerful faction, one would see that there's a lot more to them than meets the eye. Nexus is a surprisingly inclusive society, where one's station is decided purely on merit. That merit could be based on one's strength of arms, cunning, or even trade and commerce. In Nexus, you won't be held back due to the color of your skin, the god you worship, the circumstances of your birth, etc. This faction is the perfect embodiment of might makes right. As a fledgling nation long ago, they were immediately under threat from their neighbors, but instead of cowing down, the fierce Noxians decided to take the fight to them. Seeing the success and believing that the only way to secure their place in the world is to conquer all who stand before them, led to the birth of their expansionist ways. What started as a means of survival has now become a way of life for them. The Noxians are proud people, and to them, strength is all that matters, with many of them even turning a blind eye to the means by which it is acquired. Deasia. Located in the western part of Valoran, which is the northern continent of Runeterra, one cannot miss Demasia's ivory towers. Built on the foundation of values such as justice, duty, and honor, the proud kingdom of Deasia at first glance seems to be a bastion for all those who are good and virtuous. Built by the survivors of the cataclysmic rune wars that plunged Runeterra's inhabitants into a dark age due to the amount of damage it caused, Deasia has a very strong anti-magic stance. This stance is not just in their philosophy, but in the very bones of their city, which was built using petricite, a mysterious white stone that has the ability to dampen magic. It was more than a stroke of fortune that a kingdom built by refugees of an arcane war would find a haven that nullified the very thing they feared. While the Demasians have always been viewed as the polar opposite of Noxians, things aren't always as straightforward when it comes to these large factions. Just like how Nexus has some virtues despite its brutal persona, there are some shadows cast by the lofty towers of Deasia as well. For instance, despite being founded by refugees, Deasia has become increasingly insular and isolated from the outside world as time passes by. They also have an almost fanatical intolerance toward anything to do with magic, which has often caused friction amongst its citizens. For instance, there have been laws passed that anybody displaying even an iota of magic was to be incarcerated or worse, executed regardless of their age or gender. This has led to many uprisings and rebellions in the kingdom, especially by those who dwell outside the walls of the capital city. With the ever-looming threat of Noxian invasion on the horizon, Deasia is not the place of glory that it once was, with many skeptics even stating that the kingdom was well past its glory days. There are still those, though, who remember the true meaning of being a Demasian, and for now the kingdom endures, still shining in all its glory. However, with the death of their king, Jarvan III, there's an ongoing succession dispute with the crown prince, still waiting for the noble families to stop their bickering and politicking. Deasia has withstood countless wars, but the one war it might not be able to withstand is the one from within. While it still stands, Deasia remains a beacon of hope and virtue, at least for the most part. Bilgewater. For all of you fans of adventures in the high sea and pirates and privateers, there's something for you in Runeterra. Bilgewater is a port city that serves as a haven for the not-so-law-abiding citizens of this world. Judging by its denizens, the place would have devolved into a state of anarchy if it were not for the various crime syndicates that govern the place. Here, one can buy anything from the most dangerous and illegal hextech to the rarest of commodities, as long as one has the acumen to survive its mean streets. This city is, in fact, the biggest black market in all of Runeterra. It's a place one can disappear in and start anew, and to do this, it has also been dubbed as the City of New Beginnings. Nobody cares about anybody past here, and it provides many with the rare opportunity of a fresh start, as long as they're brave and smart enough to take it. Located in an archipelago called the Serpent Isles, its location is no hidden secret, and despite its seemingly lawlessness to an outsider, very few have ever dared to attack this city. The seas surrounding the port are not home to mere sharks and other predators, but proper sea monsters, who are hunted for both sport and trading purposes. Everything from their flesh to their bones is a highly sought-after commodity, making this an extremely viable venture. While we've mentioned that the port city is run by various powerful syndicates, out of all the people that call the port their home, none are more respected and in some cases more revered than the actual natives of the island where it's located. The Buhru are the indigenous people of the Serpent Isles, and their rituals and customs are highly respected within Bilgewater and are incorporated into the city's day-to-day life. Many Buhru hold powerful positions in the pirate cruising gangs, as their knowledge of the land and the sea surrounding it is beyond reproach. There's never a dull day in Bilgewater, and it certainly isn't for one looking to start a family, but if you're looking for fortune and glory, this is as good a place as any other in Runeterra, for here, even a beggar rises up to be akin to the king. However, one needs to watch out, because as the saying goes in Bilgewater, the higher they climb, the deeper they drown.
The prisoner! She's gone!
Targon boasts the highest mountain peak in all of Runeterra, known as Mount Targon, and while its massive size is extraordinary, that's not the main reason why it's so famous. The surrounding areas of the mountain are inhabited by tribes that worship the sun, who are known as Solari. They lead a rigid and dogmatic life, dedicated to preserving their ways. However, there used to be another faith similar to the Solari, who deemed them heretical. Many people journey to Mount Targon without knowing what lives on this summit. The way to the summit is littered with the frozen corpses of countless individuals who have attempted the climb over the years. However, those who manage to go through the perilous journey and reach the top are either rendered hollow or come back changed. These changed beings, who retain some semblance of their own will, have been imbued with the power of long-lasting celestial aspects, who are beings of immense power that existed long before Runeterra. Mount Targon is therefore actually a gateway to the celestial realm itself, though what lies beyond cannot be described by any mortals, as it lies beyond our comprehension. What we do know is that when a primeval being called the Starforger Aurelion's soul was invited by the aspects to a world that wasn't of his creation, revolving around one of the stars he had made, he was duped and these people siphoned his powers. The aspects told Aurelion that these primitive people of this insignificant world wanted to thank him for gifting them a son. Soul, in his hubris, eager to have his glory and power praised, descended to the plane in the form of a dragon. These people bid to offer a gift to their mighty benefactor by the aspects, and they did so by placing on his head a gold crown forged with magic and expert craftsmanship. Aurelion would, however, realize it too late that this crown was no gift but a shackle as it tightened around his head, draining from him all his knowledge for the humans to inspect and learn. Further, he was banished from the material plane into the celestial realm and prevented from ever returning. These people would become known as the Targonians. Over the years, many amongst them transformed into godlike beings that served their patron deity and their nation. These people were also responsible for building the sun disk of Shurima, and hence have a close tie with that ancient realm as well. For now, Targon lies undisturbed and inaccessible, still attracting adventurers, quest lovers, and madmen. Shurima. One of the most ancient empires to ever exist in Runeterra, Shurima existed in the southern continent of this world, named after itself. Aided by the Targonians, the Shurimans built a sun disk in the ancient city of Narimazeth. However, it failed to operate for some unknown reason. It was not until they were aided by the Extali mages that a new, fully functioning sun disk would be crafted. These disks would be used to imbue the power of aspects to worthy mortals, in order to help them ascend into god warriors, who were avatars of these celestial beings. With their might and knowledge, Shurima would grow to become the dominant kingdom in the region, and in its time, perhaps all of Runeterra. They would begin by expanding their territories with the aid of these warriors, and none could stand in their way. Many except the Ixtal joined them willingly as well. At its peak, Shurima was one of the greatest jewels of the ancient world. However, like all great things, their time in the sun would not last forever. However, not all who were annexed by the Shurima Empire were content living under their yoke. One such group were the vassal state of Ikatha, who had long harbored a deep-seated grudge for the humiliation they had endured at the hands of Shurima for millennia. It would all culminate with them breaking into rebellion aided by their mages. What seems like a desperate struggle at first looked like it might end in Ikathian victory until the 12 ascended warriors joined the fray. From that point forward, the results of the battle were all but confirmed, as the Ikathians fell legion after legion until they were pinned down within the walls of their capital. With the ascended and their remaining armies of Shurima bearing down on them, the mages would unleash their final ace in the hole, not knowing what its true nature was. They would release what would be the Infernal Void, which would instantly destroy Ikathia and the forces of Shurima, including the most powerful ascended warrior, Setaka. The god warriors of Shurima would continue waging a brutal war against the void creatures until every single rift had been sealed. Even though they did emerge victorious, the war would have taken a huge price, as none of the ascended would ever be the same, with all of them having lost something inexplicable in that harrowing campaign. Shurima continues to flourish until one day, their last emperor, Azir, was betrayed by his best friend and advisor, Zerath, a slave boy he had befriended and favored all his life. In an attempt to ascend, Zerath would assassinate the king and attempt to take his place. This would result in the sun disk being damaged, along with the death of the last king. This glorious empire would slowly be brought to its knees. The awakened beings, now leaderless and without a purpose, would begin infighting, causing further devastation and becoming increasingly more hated by the mortals around them, who named them Darken, which loosely translates to the Fallen. The memories of their glorious past had all but been relegated to myths and legends when their last emperor would arise once again as a fully ascended being. Having survived the attempt on his life millennia ago, he would repair the sun disk and set about bringing about the rebirth of his long-lasting empire. Although nowhere at the peak of their prowess, Shurima is well on their way back to their god emperor. The Blessed Isles, aka the Shadow Isles. Just as the name suggests, the Blessed Isles were a group of islands that had merged from beneath the waves, and with its creation, Mokai, a spirit of nature, was also born alongside it. For long years, Mokai roamed the lands of those islands until he came upon the Font of Magic, and there he dug deep with his roots. This location would be the place of origin for the fabled Water of Life, which was said to grant one succor and healing from the gravest of illnesses and injuries, along with increasing one's vitality. As Mokai flourished thanks to this water, he would go on to plant his various saplings across the island, transforming it into a veritable lush paradise. When this island was discovered by men one day in a time now forgotten, they were enamored by the beauty and power this place held. Hence, they would establish their settlements, from where they would pursue new knowledge regarding all things, from the arcane to nature. Mokai would grow fond of these humans and grant them even greater knowledge, along with the chosen few, who would even gain access to the hallowed waters of life. It would become a center where astronomers, mages, and scholars gather from all across Runeterra. The capital of Helia would house all those learned beings, along with some of the most rare and powerful magical artifacts in existence. While the general populace led a very peaceful agricultural life, their island was protected by a magical mist that concealed its location and prevented entry to any outsiders who didn't have prior permission. This utopian realm would, however, one day be destroyed in a violent event that came to be known as Ruination. A king of an ancient kingdom whose name is now lost to time, called Viego, would invade the Blessed Isles. Driven mad by grief due to the death of his wife, Isolde, he would gain access to the Isles thanks to one of his retainers who had previously managed to enter the islands looking for a cure and who had misjudged her king's intentions and led him here. Now, the Water of Life would have cursed Isolde and her affliction if she had yet been alive, but by the time Viego brought her to the front, she had already left her mortal coil a long time ago. Thus, the magics of the water would return her soul from the afterlife, but would raise her as a horrid wraith driven by mad pain and anger from having been ripped apart from the sweet embrace of death. Isolde would attack Viego with his own enchanted sword and pierce him through the heart. This would result in the two different types of magic colliding, leading to an eruption of energy from that point. The clouds would darken and the protective fog that surrounded the Blessed Isles would transform it into a black mist. This black mist would enshroud the entire island, and any that it touches would be killed instantly and raised to undeath as a wraith, cursed to forever haunt the island and plague the living. The Blessed Isles would thenceforth be called the Shadow Isles. Now slowly, the reach of these dark myths that surrounded the island extend toward the rest of Runeterra, ever so slightly every year, like a giant hand of death. Bandal City. Some of the most fascinating creatures in all of Runeterra are the Yordles. These are actually beings of the spirit realm, some of whom have made their way into the material realm. Yordles are night immortals and have the ability to use very powerful magic. They appear as bipedal mammals and have been found near human settlements since the early days. The genius professor and member of Piltover's council, Heimerdinger, is an example of a Yordle. You must be wondering if Yordles aren't from Runeterra. Where exactly are they from in the spirit realm? Yordles hail from a pocket dimension within the spirit realm called Bandal City. Not many people in Runeterra know how to access it, as there are many gateways to this mystical realm, and all have their own conditions for opening. For the few who have found their way in there, or wandered unwittingly into this magical realm, we hear that it is a place of eternal sunshine, crystal clear waters, and a bountiful harvest that lasts the entire time. According to recounts, mortal senses are heightened to an extreme degree, causing food to taste extremely good, colors to appear dazzling bright, and the intoxication from the beverage to last years and years. It's a place where magic runs wild, and is not bound by the limitations it faces in the material realm. Outside of these general things, no two accounts of Bandal City have ever been the same, and many describe the experience as if it were akin to a dream. Time seems to flow differently in this mysterious place, as those humans who have made their way here and managed to return look to have aged tremendously, while many never even make it back. Exel. The founders of the Exel were part of the group that traveled westward in the days gone by, and were also responsible for setting the Blessed Islands and Targon. Famed for their elemental magic, the Exels aided the Shuriman Empire in developing their Dark Sun, and thus played a crucial role in the creation of the Ascended. They were one of the first to willingly become part of the Shurima Empire. They would, however, secede from the Empire after the Icathian Rebellion, when Void would be released by the rebels, causing widespread destruction. They would encircle their borders with forests enchanted by their famed elemental magic, and thus would remain mostly in isolation for the millennia afterward. Their decision was further justified by the Rune Wars and the Ruination event, which they watched from afar. The earliest forefathers of the Exel settled down in the lush forest they call their home, in the west of Shurima, and unbeknownst to them, they had drawn the attention of the Bracken Skarner. Having never encountered their kind before, Skarner observed them with much fascination and wonder, hidden from view. This wouldn't last, as one day, during one of his usual observations, he sensed a rock slide about to hit the fledgling community. Not willing to see them destroyed as he still enjoyed looking at them, Skarner emerged from his hiding and protected them from this natural calamity. The Exel, in gratitude, began revering him as their protector, with the Bracken now integrating himself into their society. In return for this, Skarner would use his abilities to build the Exel their great arcology of Ixalcan. He would also be the founding member of the Untal, who were the ruling class of the Exel. Ixalcan is not just a city, but also a great center of learning, where every part of the city is connected through lines of power dedicated to myriad disciplines of elemental magic. The heart of the Exel Empire has withstood the test of time, thanks mostly to the wisdom of Skarner, who lies at the heart of the city. The barrier around their kingdom also has no small role to play in this, because its enchantments make it nigh impossible for anyone to enter their realm without their permission. Those who still attempt to penetrate their borders are met with violent storms, unforgiving terrain, and foliage that seem to never end, and grow almost as quickly as you cut them down. Due to their decision, Ixtals do not have much relationship with other nations. The ties they once had with Shurima and Targon are all but lost. Recently, Piltover's exploration group has tried to venture into Ixtal with some minor successes, which has earned them the ire of the denizens of Ixtal. For now, Ixtal believes that all other organizations and nations have risen and are mere upstarts and pretenders. Piltover and Zaun. The City of Progress, as it's also called, lies in the isthmus that separates Valoran and Shurima, and is one of the biggest trading centers in all of Runeterra. Designed with a steampunk theme, it's a city full of marvels of technology and human ingenuity, where one can find traders, merchants, and investors from all over the world. Piltover has seen countless technological advancements over the years, but perhaps the most significant one of these had to be the discovery of the Hex Crystals. Discovered by the Pharaoh's family, it granted anyone willing with the right amount of coin access to magic, which was ordinarily only reserved for those with innate arcane talents. These Hex Crystals would play a vital role as the key component for Hex. Hextech sent a discipline that combined technology with magic. This allowed magic to become part of the daily life of the ordinary man. Through the Hex Gates, any merchant, conglomerate, or nation could transport shipments and men almost instantaneously to their destination. The impact on logistics and supply could not be stressed enough, and it brought great wealth to Piltover. However, as more varied forms of Hextech began to get developed, so did the demand for the Hex Crystals, which were now being developed symmetrically as well. This led to an increase in the volume of gray, and as we know, this is a highly toxic fume that divides the two cities of Piltover and Zaun. The city of Piltover lies on the top half of the district. The people who dwell in the lower city, now known as Zaun, have paid the price for their prosperity. These people live in squalid conditions, in streets filled with crime. However, there's ingenuity to find here as well, with the various chemtech facilities and brilliant minds who have found their way to the Undercity for various reasons. Like most places rife with criminal activity, a person's past doesn't really follow them here, and one is allowed to start fresh and in anonymity as long as they have what it takes to survive its mean streets. It's a dark reflection of the city that lies above it. One of the key differences between Piltover and Zaun is that, unlike in Piltover, there are next to no restrictions or limits regarding what you can experiment with. This is, after all, the home of Singed, perhaps one of the most unhinged scientific minds on Runeterra. Kim Barons and other criminal enterprises often fund these experiments. Zaun is a testament to the tenacity of life itself, as it proves that people can exist even in the most horrid and toxic environments, if they're forced to. The tenacity of the Zaunites is something to be admired in our opinion. These two cities are, of course, the setting for the Arcane TV show, which does a great job of showcasing the relationship between the two cities and the people who live within them. It presents a scenario of the bourgeoisie and proletariat with the Zaunites, under constant oppression from those who live above them. Regardless of what people feel about Piltover and Zaun, the importance of these two cities in a world largely dependent solely on the magic and a much more traditional Final Fantasy lifestyle breathes fresh air into the entire franchise. It'll be sad when Arcane Season 2 ends tomorrow, because with the third season rumored to have been cancelled, this will probably be the last time we see all of these twin cities. Iona. Iona is a nation scattered across many groups of islands, with several settlements brought together by an alliance. Although the philosophies of these programs may differ at a granular level, in the macrocosm of things, all Ionians strive for balance and harmony. They lead a sequestered existence, up until very recently, when they were attacked by Nexus. This led to a long and bitter war, where the Ionians suffered massive casualties, and drove the Emperor back, with several Pyrrhic victories. Now, the land lies divided between those who would seek to return to their normal pacifist lifestyle and others who want to militarize the nation in order to prevent future tragedies and take revenge on Nexus. A home of abundant natural light, there's now been a suicide rise in the learning of the dark arts. For now, the people of Iona are at a crossroads of destiny, as they must choose which path they will follow. Iona is most notably the home of the Vastaya, who appear as hybrid humanoids, a cross between animals and humans. They're the descendants of the Vastaya Share, who were mortals who took over the powers of the spirit realm and transferred them into chimeric beings of immense power. This was, however, not done for the sake of power itself, but due to Iona being invaded by giants, who came from the sky. After defeating the giants, instead of lording over the rest of the mortals, the Vastaya Shire instead decided to live amongst them as one. While the first generation of these beings were immortal and held immense power due to their intermingling with normal humans, the subsequent generations were far less powerful and not truly immortal. The borders between the spirit and the physical realm are extremely thin in Iona, which explains the high degree of attunement between its inhabitants, including flora and fauna, and the spiritual world. While Ionians have remained neutral as most of Valoran was steeped in conflict with the recent events, they've been forced to reevaluate their place in the world. Fiord. The Fiord is a harsh tundra where only the hardiest of souls can survive. It's only natural, therefore, that the people who dwell there are warriors whose first toe is not a mortal enemy, but the very environment they call home. Their fierce, independent nature, which has been forged in these harsh surroundings, is often considered barbaric and savage by the rest of the denizens of Runeterra. The region is locked in a civil war between Lysandra and her Frostguard, who are keeping the Watchers at bay, trapped within the true ice. The Avarosans, led by Ash, who's by far the largest group, and finally Sejuani, the Iceborn War Mother, who leads her tribe called the Winter Claw and are constantly raiding beyond their borders. It's a wild place where the elemental forces and demigods still run wild, and silent battle for the fate of the world is constantly being fought. The Freljords remain a mystery to most of Runeterra, and little is known about the island, as there's little reason for most to venture there. Void. True to its name, the Void is the antithesis of all existence, and it exists beyond the realms of conventional moral understanding, brought into existence by the events that led to the shattering of the peaceful nothingness as the universe was birthed. The darkness itself was given sentience, and within it formed creatures that eternally hunger to devour everything. They made their presence felt in Icathia, where their power consumed an entire nation, and it took the sacrifices of many ascended to stem the tide. While in the Freljords, it took Lysandra to betray her sisters and their followers just to trap the Watchers, who are creatures of the Void, from breaking free into the world, plunging the entire northern region of Valoran into a nearly endless winter. Though the Void was largely kept at bay, it continues to corrupt all things that it comes into contact with, whether it's directly through touch or the nameless whispers in the dark. Through these corrupted beings, the Void carries out its purpose in the material realm, looking to finally devour everything in existence and return the world to what it once was: nothingness. Marvelous verdict. Almost every playable character in the games is based in this universe, and the Arcane TV show belongs to one of these geopolitical factions. This was but a mere summary of these factions, which have so much lore to them, we've had to leave them out in an effort to not overload you with information. Once again, if you do want us to do full-length videos on any of these factions, do hit us up in the comments. We also hope that with this video, we were able to impress upon our Arcane viewers how large and diverse the world that the show is based on truly is. There are also sub-factions within these larger geopolitical factions that also have an equally profound impact on this world, which we'll discuss in a later video. Most of these factions in the early days of the franchise held a clear-cut moral standing. For example, Nexus was where the bad guys lived, while Deasia was painted as the land of the good characters. However, over the years, as the franchise has matured, so too has the lore leading to most factions having somewhat of a morally gray character. For now, we hope that you enjoyed this video and that it's given you much more context regarding this wonderful world. We thank you for sticking with us right to the end of the video. We have many more videos lined up for Arcane and the world of Runeterra in general, so be sure to stay tuned. There are also several videos that we've already done on this franchise, and if this piqued your interest, go check them out on our channel as well. We hope to see you soon on our next video. Until then, stay safe and stay marvelous. And if you liked our content, don't forget to leave a like and subscribe to us if you haven't already. Have a good one and be safe. Thanks, everyone.